Daniels is on his way. Actually, really want to, very appreciative of Ed coming out. He's probably not going to tell you he's been feeling terrible for the last 3 days. In fact, at about 5, he canceled. At 5:15, he said, I'll be there. And he canceled again at 5:30. And at 5:45, he said, I'm going to be there. So he's been battling some sickness, like some, sounds like some kidney stone stuff. And I kind of encouraged him, look, we can handle it without you. But he said, Coach, I'm going to be there. And he's been a supporter of St. Charles Catholic. He really likes our program, always has, and he really loves our kids. He knows that they're different than most places. So talk a little bit about last week. First of all, you know, in the sub-varsity, it was good to have we had a nice crowd, a JV and freshman doubleheader versus Holy Cross. Our freshman team came out and won. Our JV team tied. You know, I told the freshmen, you know, they don't get as much attention as we'd love to give them. But I think, I don't know if you can see it as a parent, you know, Holy Cross is a very talented 8th and 9th grade group, but they're coached by a separate entity, right? So they don't work with the varsity. They have their own set of, you know, 8th and 9th grade coaches. And they probably did have a little bit more talent than we did, but our kids, I think, going with the varsity, being coached by the varsity coaches, being with the varsity kids, they just execute at a better level. And so I was proud of what they did. We did video the game, went back and watched it afterwards. JV played. It was an exciting game for a fan. You know, it ended at the 2-yard line to end in a tie. We did some good things. You know, but again, video to evaluate some kids that, you know, we're thinking that either can or can't get it done, and wanted to see them with some live bullets. So that part was positive. And then we got to Friday. You know, we had a good trip to Turlings. Really went there without a hitch. We were blessed we didn't get much traffic in Baton Rouge. Took the chance, went through the Chafalaya, got there safely. They treated us well as far as where they put us and things like that. You know, and then we suffered our first loss in 628 days as a program. You know, I thought we played decent in the first half. To an extent almost dominated when we give up a trick play for 95 yards and really kind of shut them down the rest of the half, including, you know, a scoop and score. And then the second half started out, we played 2 phenomenal snaps, and then we busted a coverage and let their best receiver go. You know, didn't even cover him. I mean, the one guy we talked about covering the entire game, the entire week. We didn't really care if we covered anybody else, but the one guy that we talked about covering, we didn't. And he shook loose. And then obviously, you know, we get down to the 1-yard line, we lose 8 off them all, and it kind of snowballed down from there. You know, and it was a game we had a chance to win in the end. It's a game that we should have won, but we're just not ready to win yet. You know, we talked about all those things with our kids. You know, last decision is 4th and 1 on our own 30-yard line. If I had to make the decision again, I'd go for it again. You know, I felt like our defense has pretty much laid their guts out on the field and didn't have a whole lot left. And my thought process was we're either going to get this thing, give ourselves a little bit more chance to breathe, and then we'll punt the ball if we have to later, and they won't have a lot of time left with timeouts. Or if we don't get it, if they score, our offense will have an opportunity to go down and win it, which we did. You know, we did some good things. You know, we watched the film critically and talked to our kids about the things that need to get better. But we are getting better as a football team. As hard as it was to watch the video and watch the mistakes, and I don't know if you get this as a parent or as a fan, you know, we are doing some things on offense, defense, and special teams that are at a level that we couldn't even do last year, like on our high elite level. I mean, just at a level that we watched the film and we're like, wow, I can't believe we're doing this. But we are doing some things on a negative level that I do not watch the Chargers do in elementary, the little team that plays out here. So, like I told them this morning, we're not trying to eliminate the bad completely. That's not real life, right? You're going to have bad. There's going to be mistakes. Our bad has to get a little better, right? Our bad is a 95-yard touchdown instead of a first down. Our bad is, you know, completely busting a coverage. Our bad is not getting set and giving up a touchdown. So we have to clean those things up. Continue to do the things that we're doing at a high level in all three phases. You know, I don't know, it's a tough team to read. You know, I don't know if we have the confidence, but we have the capability of being a very good football team. We're not there yet. I don't know if they truly believe that, but some of the things that we do are very impressive. You know, we talked about that. You know, our offense has maybe had more yards of offense in the last 3 games than we almost did the entire season last year, right? Our defense, though, has probably given up more yards than we gave up the entire season, but it's because of big plays. You know, those little things in the middle are really high-level stuff. And honestly, from a coaching standpoint, that frustrates you even more, right? I'm sure as a parent, just like you're watching your child academically, right? You see them do something at a high level, and then you expect that from them all the time. And it's the same thing. So we know that we can do it. We're just lacking consistency, right? We're lacking consistency. And it's nobody's fault as far as the schedule. I made it, right? I do think we're going to get better for it. I talk about this all the time. I mean, we're getting bit with some injuries. I'd put our program on any given Friday night up against anybody on any given Friday night. You name the team, we'll go play them. I think we're good enough to compete and win on any given Friday night. When you stack those Friday nights, high-level Friday nights in a row. So here we are, high level, Ponchatoula high level, Shaw high level, Lusher high level, Charlie's high level. That's when you kind of start to see some things break down, right? And you start to see some guys get injured and you don't have the depth that's big, even though we have 113, 15 players, whatever it may be. The reality is we're playing with about 30, right? 45 of those guys, 8th, 9th graders, and some of those other guys just aren't ready yet. So you start to kind of see, you know, your team whittle down and things of that nature. So we got some guys got to step up in some different positions. We do have some guys that are getting better. We're going to start 3 sophomores on the defense this weekend. We're going to start at least 2 on offense. Coach Monav used to teach me you're going to lose a game for every sophomore you start. Now, I don't know if that's true. We're going to try to, you know, disprove that theory, but that's kind of how it kind of works. You know, talking about injuries, we did have some major injuries. You know, Britton Dean, it was an existing injury that he was kind of gutting out. He cleaned up his meniscus a little bit in the summer. And he was out there, he rehabbed it for about 8, you know, we kept him out there, kept him off for 8 weeks. And, you know, he didn't really re-injure it. It's just an inflammation of the injury, the existing injury. His MRI looked really good as far as, it didn't look like there was anything worse. He was going to cut part of the MRI out. He'll be out, that surgery will be Friday. He'll be out 3 to 4 weeks. Aiden Altamont broke his wrist. It's not a secret. You know, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He will be back, right? What week that he comes back is, you know, we are unsure. On Thursday, he'll get put in a cast that's up to the elbow. He'll be in that for at least 4 weeks, and we just pray that while he's in that cast for those 4 weeks, everything heals. And then they'll cut down to a smaller cast. And then we think by week 10, week 11, week 12, he can play with some type of fiberglass splint, or Dr. Choate even thought that by the end of the season, if he stayed alive long enough, he'd be able to play with nothing. So that was positive news. It was kind of like a funeral around here for a little while on Sunday. You know, had to spray the coaches with holy water. They were really struggling. But, you know, at the end of the day, we're blessed, right? Brady St. Pierre, to be in a 2A school and have a guy like Brady St. Pierre ready to play is a positive. I thought he played extremely well. I know he didn't play perfect, but when you think about, he really has been a safety pretty much for the last 3 months. You know, he did some 7-on-7 in the summer, which I'm glad he did. And then I played him in the JV game on Wednesday, which I'm glad I did. And next thing you know, he's out there. He has a different skill set than Aiden, right? He is a pocket passer. He's a decent runner, but, you know, we talk about that as a staff, no disrespect, but if something happens to Brady, then we're putting a 12-year-old in. You know, he's in 8th grade, and we're going to put him in if we have to, you know. So it's a next man up mentality. We don't feel sorry for ourselves. I told the kids today, you know, we're blessed to be at a place where, you know, we lost, and everybody I saw on Monday I guess they expected me to have a famous on my face, like, oh, you okay? You know, the sun came up, you know, our kids are here, our kids still love football, they still love playing. We have a coaching staff that still loves to work. And I'm glad to be at a place that feels that way after a loss. It's been a long time, right? Maybe that was a good thing. I could tell you from a coach standpoint, that was a burden. Okay, that was a burden to think about. It's been that long since you've lost 628 days, and I think there's enough burden going around. I think, you know, our kids will pass it. It's probably not going to be our last loss, but we got to learn from every single one, right? Talk a little bit about De La Salle, a little bit more about the injuries. I'm sorry, I skipped. We do have Cameron Brady's week to week. He got hurt in the Lutcher game on kickoff. He has a fractured scapula. It is getting better. I talked to the physical therapist today. I think he'll be back sooner or later. You know, if I know him, he's going to kind of gut it out before it's fully healed. But he also is a swimmer, so he's got to kind of be smart when it comes to that. And Dylan Dooley suffered a concussion on Friday. He'll be week to week. So we're down a couple of guys. But our kids, yesterday I thought we came out there with the right attitude. You know, not everyone mad at the world or just say I'm trying to get better. Today it was not as good. You know, we just got a lot of things to correct. A little bit about De La Salle, biggest team we faced, like by far, not even close. I think it's the best defense we faced of all of them. Maybe even better than U-High's defense. You know where they're going to be. They got a DC that's done it for a long time. He's going to be 4-3. They're going to play quarters. And if you can beat that, then you win. If you can't, you're going to lose. And so they do an excellent job when it comes to that. Another dynamic offensive player in PJ Martin, who's from here. So before I fire myself, I'm firing a recruiting coordinator. You know, he's from LaPlace, but he's an excellent running back. He runs physical. He's a hard-nosed kid. Their offensive line is gigantic. They have a tackle that's 6'7", 280. I don't even know where you find those guys. I've never seen one that's like a unicorn, you know. So, you know, but we're going to have to get up there and be physical and play tough. You know, the thing that does give us, I'm not going to say an advantage, but an opportunity is that's the life we live, right? And what I mean by that is they're offensive, running the football, physical team. And when our defense goes against our offense, that's what they do. I mean, they see power roll, they see Cajun, and they're used to playing physical. And so we're going to have to out-physical them. We got to get it into the fourth quarter again. We've played a lot of games in the fourth quarter and find a way to win it. We're going to have to win it in the special teams. I do think we have a little bit of an advantage there, but it's going to be tough. And then it won't get any easier next week in Vanderbilt Catholic, and then Abbeville and St. Martinville. So, you know, I think that's kind of been our message for our kids. Even at practice, it kind of goes to the same thing I told you about what we see on film. We do something in practice that is at a very elite level, and then we do something at practice that we just cannot fathom that we just did that. So our big thing is about consistency. It's about us getting more consistent, going to work every day, not just going to practice because we know we have to practice. That's what everybody else is doing, but going to practice with an attitude. I have been really trying. Talking to the coaches, I would like to cut practice. You know, last year we kind of got it down pat to where we practiced, you out there for 2 hours and then that was it. We're just not there yet. You know, we haven't been able to get it there. You know, we've had to do a lot of run-throughs and a little bit more film study. And I do think we will get there. You know, I don't know what our record's going to be in the end. But I think if we get healthy at the right time and we continue to get better in spots and those guys grow up, then I think we're somebody to mess with in the playoffs. You know, right now we're not. Are we a championship caliber team right now? No, we're not. Do I see the pieces in the room? Yes, I do. But there's no guarantee that we'll get to that point. So we've been very hard on them. You know, we don't have a ton of depth. The guys that are out there, we got to get them better. We need them to be a little bit more self-motivated because we literally need each other. And so I hope that we learn from those mistakes and continue to get better. Unfortunately, tomorrow the JV game is canceled. De La Salle said they do not have enough players to play JV, which I find it hard to believe, but the freshman game is on at 5 o'clock. So we will play 8th and 9th graders at 5 o'clock on the field, but the next 3 weeks will not be freshmen, it'll be JV only. We play Vanderbilt JV only the following week, and then I think we play either Newman, and then we play St. James. And then after that, we play a freshman game versus Chalmette, and then a freshman JV doubleheader versus Jesuit to end the sub-varsity. Us and Lutcher have talked if we can find a way to make up that JV game, maybe even week 10, and if we have enough bodies, then we will. Okay. Any questions before I turn this thing over to Mr. Daniels about Tearlings, or you're not gonna make me talk about the officials, are you?
On the Lutcher game, when the quarterback helmet got pulled off, why didn't he go off the field?
Good question. So if the referee sees that the helmet was either taken off intentional or by an opposing player, then that rule does not apply. But you know, Tearlings popped their helmets off multiple times and it didn't matter. We said to come off. But that is the rule. So if they feel like if it came off because you don't have it tight enough, then it's your fault, you got to come off. But if they see the act of hands to the face or you pulling it off, they don't penalize that snap. It's a good question. Yes?
Those referees, they was from that area or they was from here? We brought them with us.
No, they were from there.
Oh, because they played ball with them.
Yeah, it was.
Old school 70s.
It was disappointing, you know. I know we used to got to be 14 points better when you go on the road. I thought the spot early on Aiden's quarterback sneak was absolutely atrocious. He was laying over the line, and they spotted him like he didn't gain an inch. Ultimately, that didn't cost us the game. It was disappointing what happened. I mean, to think that what they did to Aiden on their sideline and then they actually flagged Kaysen for going to defend him, I thought the act of what they did to Aiden was possibility of being ejection. I mean, he was standing there and he got helmet to helmet in the back of the head. We did lose our cool, myself included. There's some, penalties that are unacceptable that we have to get better at. We have to understand, there are a couple that I can't blame a kid for what happened. I mean, it's just at the end of the day, we got flagged on the 1 yard line. Samari's really just trying to aid his player because the referee is not. The guy is laying on top of Devon, and the referee's doing nothing to get him off. Now there is a rule: you cannot pull an opposing player off the pile, and that's what they called him for. But that's a big, big call in the game. Disappointing. So. But at the end of the day, we had our opportunities. With all of that being said, and we know that we got to be better. And look, we can see that crew again in a couple of weeks when we go to Abbeville. So it's hard for I talk to the coaches. It's hard for you to call and complain too much. You got to be careful what you say because you don't know when you're going to see those guys again or in the playoffs.
Is that okay for the officials to follow the kids and listen to what they're saying so they can throw a flag?
I mean, I guess it is. Ultimately, I didn't think they did a good job of controlling the game. I thought they were worried too much about some other things instead of taking control. I was disappointed it was a 5-man crew. I mean, a game of that magnitude, not to toot our own horn, St. Charles Catholic coming into Tearlings Catholic, you'd think that's a 6 or 7-man crew. 5-man crew, a lot of things slid. Just disappointed in that aspect. I don't know if that was the plan, if that's what they usually do. I know there's an official shortage. But I didn't think a game of that magnitude deserved to be under-officiated as it was. Any other questions?
How many penalties we had? How many yards?
Well, it's a little deceiving. The penalty difference is not much difference. I think we had 10 for 105 or 11 for 105, and they were very similar. But what was killer was the offsettings, right? Every time they did something, they would find a way to make it an offsetting penalty.
Right.
And then that really, really hurt us in the end, because instead of us getting that 15 yards, it just ended up being a wash, and that was a big deal. So it's hard because you don't count those yards. Those yards kind of dissipate, nobody gets them. But at the end of the day, it was it was tough, and hopefully we learn from it, right? That's why we play those games. I thought it was a hell of an atmosphere, right? I thought, that's a playoff type atmosphere. It's a nice stadium. The turf is pretty old. It's about time for them to change it. But I think that it's I think we can look back on that later on in the year and say that we grew from it. I hope we can anyway.
Yeah, coach, that's coach Will retired this year. When y'all had, whoever that fourth down, they went that fourth down and stopped it. When you had one official saying first down, the other one saying no, and the whole coaching staff, plus players ran off the sideline, it was midfield.
Yeah, it was disappointing because,
That should have been a flag right there.
right, you know, I think on the first spot, I don't know if, and that's one of the problems that I have in such a small crew. I don't know if they knew who was gonna get the spot. Like the guy on our sideline, he kind of just walked in thinking somebody else had the spot, and next thing you know, they looked at him. And so he just put the ball down where his foot was. And Aiden's laying across the line 1.5 yards from the spot. But again, like I said, those are things disappointing, and I don't want to sound, you know, that's not what cost the game. We had opportunities to win the game, but you know, and it's a learning lesson, when you go on the road, you got to be that much better, you know. And so hopefully we learn from it, because we go on the road after this week for 2 weeks in a row, and then we close the season out on the road 2 weeks in a row. So we're going to have to be better.
Quick snap. Did y'all look at that on film?
We did. I didn't feel like everybody was set. It was probably more people set than I thought originally. I'll be honest with you, we had 12 guys on the field, and we still gave up a touchdown. You know, so, you know, it was all 12 were looking at me instead of, you know, and look, it was a tough deal. They had 1 second left. Didn't know if they were going to let it go to the quarter or what was going to happen. I didn't feel like everybody was set. But again, you go on the road, you're not getting that, you know. And there were some other things I thought, you know, what they were doing to some of our defensive linemen, hands to the face in front of God and everybody, and then they would call us for a hold, you know. And so, you know, Coach Montague used to always say this, and I do believe it: no huddle teams seem to get penalized less, because those officials are just trying to get in position and watch the game. And somebody like us who likes to grind it out and huddle, we seem to get called because I guess the game kind of slows down for those guys. But, yes?
Just one question. I know about the routes, but do they send the films, like when do they look at how a player is hitting Aiden in the back that they had, or, you know, when they won't get off? Do they send that too, for them to look at?
So every association is different, and I don't know, because they usually ask the home team, right? So when we play home, our association asks us for our film, and we send it. They meet here, so I've seen them review the film and be critical of one another. Not necessarily the kids, right? Like, hey man, how'd you miss this? This is in front of everybody.
But when it's intentional like that, it just seems like they should know, at least be aware that they missed that or didn't, that something should be done for the safety of the players.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I hope that they review it, and like I said, I thought about contacting the association, not to comply, because that's not why we lost the game, but just say, you know, complain about 5 officials, complain about the mechanics of the game, and like, you know, Dane Galliano gets ejected for saying y'all cheating us. Okay, that's the same thing I said to get the flag, so I'm not blaming Dane. He learned from his coach, right? I said that.
He in his face to hear that.
Right, but the other part about it is, that's an ejection, but what the guy did to Aiden on the sideline is not. So,
and they
again,
said he was punching the face mask and telling him, even on the tackle, they were still getting, and I know that's football, but you were not getting any help for the whistle to stop it. You know, he's like.
right. We felt like that the whistle was late a couple times, and I think that's dangerous, especially when you got 2 teams going at it, and it was a little bit chippy. So at the end of the day, we'll learn from it, we'll grow from it. You know, De La Salle's gonna be a great opponent. I think it's gonna be a great atmosphere, and no matter what, we're just gonna keep getting better and hopefully heal up at the right time, and you know, give ourselves an opportunity to maybe be a champion again. Anything else?
On a positive note, the coaches from the other team did tell some of the football players, of our players, that they were awesome, they did a good job, and keep them.
Yeah, and I know you guys couldn't come on the field, but after the game, when we prayed together, Coach Dane was very complimentary. He told the kids that it was the toughest team he's ever seen on film, and that it was the toughest team he ever seen in person. So he was very complimentary. And then I said, I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but when Hurricane Ida hit, he was the first phone call I got. He called while I was still in Houston, and they filled up their trailer and brought supplies here before anybody did. So again, I know they respect what we do. I know it was a chippy game, but I think we're very like, you know what I'm saying, that they and a tough-nosed kid in that community, and so are we. So sometimes when that gets together, you're gonna have that, you know. And so I do think that they respect us. I know coach has been very. I had a coach today who doesn't have my number DM me about Aiden and tell me that, you know, we're praying for a quick recovery. He's one of the best players that they played against in a long time. And I mean, he didn't have to do that, right? He's going out of his way to find me on Twitter to say things of that nature. So I know they respect us. I hope it's something that we can continue. They'll come here next year. And again, I hope we can learn from the mistakes and continue to get better from them. All right? Thank y'all.